Welcome to the 301 Podcast, the interview podcast for the hottest up-and-coming entrepreneurs, artists, and creators. Real, authentic, and inspiring. And here is your host, Marcus Engel. Let's get it started in 301.
Today in the 301 Podcast, Luigi Zottoli, a community builder, professional ice bath taker, a creative entrepreneur, and the founder of ChillsnSip. Super excited to talk to you today about ChillsnSip, ice bath, and mental health. Welcome to the 301 Podcast.
Thank you for having me. Very excited as well.
We're going to start with a very difficult question. Financial success or personal fulfillment?
Yeah.
What would you choose?
Definitely personal fulfillment. I think right now at the moment, I'm having like a very big clarification about this topic, specifically because for many years in my life, I kind of like followed the money, and I had this like weight on my shoulder that I wanted to be successful in quote unquote financially, mostly because of like coming from like a not so rich family, and I wanted to, money has always been a problem, or like always been a focus in my life. So for most of my life, I was always following the money and trying to make it in that way. And for the past 6 months or so, everything completely changed when I started this community, and the fulfillment that I got, it's just has no comparison to all the years that I've been, trying to make money and try to get fulfillment out of making money. So definitely, the money is just a tool, and I think you shouldn't focus on that, especially if you want to start a career or start a business, or shouldn't focus your life around money. It's important, and I don't believe that when they say like money doesn't bring happiness. Nothing really brings happiness, but financial distress, it's a real thing, and if you have trouble with money, and it's always a problem. So it's gonna be a focus in some way, but I understood at least recently that it's not something that you should focus on. It's something that will come to you once you find something that gives you personal fulfillment.
And like you said, I mean, you grew up in a small village in southern Italy.
Yeah, so I come from a very small village in south of Italy. Like it's around, not so small as 30,000 people, but it's very much of a bubble, and somewhere in the south of Italy. So, the mentality in those kind of places is a lot different than if you go to live somewhere else. And once, at least for me, growing up and seeing all those big people like living this exciting life from a small village, it had a lot of attraction for me, and like money was always the main factor in living this big life. So
how has this influenced like your youth? Like, do you think like you maybe chased the wrong tail or something in your youth, like always trying to make money? Or
yes and no, because I think that also what gave me the push and the motivation to leave that place. And at 19 I left Italy to move to London to just find success. So in a way it was good as a motivation to like escape that bubble, but then with maturity and growing up, you do understand that. But for a few years I think that it brought me in places where I never really felt fulfilled, and also it gave me a lot of problem towards the idea that I had about myself, and in the sense that I couldn't really feel proud of myself because I was always chasing this image of successful person or like rich person. But it can take you to different paths that you wouldn't necessarily get into, and you end up probably doing something that it's less for your own happiness and more for just getting to this goal and getting to this amount of money that you want to reach. And eventually, if it's not really 100% your motivation, your fulfillment, it's never gonna make you happy. So
How would you describe success back then, like to how you would maybe describe it now?
Well, I would say that before the meaning of success would have been, having a big house, having the money to travel the world, and being recognized, or just all this kind of like, I would say,
Instagram lifestyle.
Instagram, exactly,
Everything that you
exactly,
can see on
everything that
Instagram, yeah.
kind of a lot of people get influenced into like seeking.
Mm.
But right now, I would say what is really success for me, it's being truly okay with who you are and loving who you are, and being surrounded by people that love you for who you are, and not the mask that you put on to make them like you or to please them, and living every day with a sense of mission that is not related to you specifically, but that brings something to other people.
I found it quite interesting in your career that you come from a small village. You kind of have this financial pressure from home. You try to make it work, but then you still decided to drop out of school, even though that probably it could have significantly like increased your chance to land a good job, to have like maybe a better salary and all those kind of like parts, let's say outside of an entrepreneurial experience. How come, like why did you?
I think I've never been good at school, so school was never a priority for me, let's say. I think just the way that my personality is and the way that I learn things don't really align with the way that the school system is set up. And since I played football most of my life, so until 18 years old, my career, like my road towards success, was football. So at 19, when I decided to drop football, school it already was not there for me as an option. So it just came natural to me to like go on a different path. And outside of that, I've always kind of been somewhat of an entrepreneur, or I always kind of like looked into other things to make money, because the same way at school I would not be able to get people to tell me what to study and what to do, and the same way I couldn't see myself doing something in a job every day that I didn't like. So I think it was just kind of like normal to me, even though it seems unusual. But at that age, I was just thinking, you know what, my career in football was probably not gonna work. What can I do? I'm just gonna, leave and go to a bigger city where there's a lot more opportunities, and I can, figure out things easier than just living in my city.
And I think you had a couple of different jobs. You worked as a marketeer, had a couple of different adventures. What would you say was your first entrepreneurial experience?
Yeah, so like it started very early. Already when I was a kid, with some of my friends, we would gather all the toys and things that we wouldn't use anymore and just sell it on the street. Then also just growing up, I was personalizing shoes for people at around 14, 15. So yeah, I started pretty early. I think for some reason, maybe because I grew up from a family that owned a shop, a clothing store. So maybe there was some of business, entrepreneurial kind of vibe coming from there. So yeah, it started really, really early. And yeah, it just kept on going.
Yeah. And when would you say was your first serious entrepreneurial experience? Was that then the psychedelic company, or?
But yeah, the main, like probably the first very official business was Delix, which was a company that I started with my business partner Sam, and the idea was basically to create a platform to integrate people that were looking for psychedelic therapy with professional. The idea was that it was becoming very much of a hype of treating mental health with psychedelics, but there was a lot of like gray area of people that would shamans and things like this. They would apply those treatments, but not without a very medical background. So we were on the verge of building a platform to connect people with professional therapists.
Nice. And in this period, because like also in my preparation, I think from this moment onwards to now your adventure, ChillsnSip, it gets very blurry. Like what happened in those like 2 or 3 years of I stopped with the psychedelic platform. I think you started to work also before that already for like as a growth marketeer and for a fashion company. But like, how was this process then? I mean, it was also in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
So can you tell us also, like in your state, you talked about mental health already.
Yeah. So I think that was kind of my period of like my self journey. So it was a period where I focused a lot more on understanding about myself, which like obviously the starting of a business like that comes from the fact that I was already involved into mental health and I was already looking into like mental health in general. And when I dropped out of that business was specifically because it kind of started my decline into my mental health period. And in those 2-3 years, I kind of worked a lot on myself, did a lot of different things like coaching, meditation, therapy, a lot of things to try and learn and understand more about myself and about what was wrong, why, like I was said, like I was trying to do so many things and I did a lot of things that I could be proud of, but I was still feeling unfulfilled and lost in life. And I felt like I was, just wasting my time, basically, maybe wasting my 20s. So throughout these years, it was just a very long journey of understanding a lot more about myself and about what actually I wanted to do in life and what actually I was doing with my life. Yeah.
Crazy. Let's talk about the inception of ChillsnSip. I think we have to go back somewhere to January.
Yeah.
This year.
January 5th.
January 5th, where you thought, hey, what about taking some ice baths? Everyone is talking about it. Why not me? Can you take us also like, I find it also really interesting in the process of
so the idea is that, so back to this, my previous business partner, Sam, we tried with him already doing what I started in January a few years ago, just I think during COVID. We did a 5 days dips every day in the same spot where I decided to do now. So I had kind of already an understanding of what cold exposure could do for you and ice bath could do for you. And during that period, I was also in a very low mental state because I was, again, going through financial problems. I just had a heartbreak because of a breakup. I was working in this job that I was working with, and I felt very stuck. I couldn't see myself going in any direction anymore in life, and because of that, a lot of negative thoughts start arising in my head. And if you stay in that patterns of negative thoughts enough, you will start to believe it, and once you start to believe it, you start acting with it. So between like October, November, December, this period, most of my life was just staying at home, smoking weed, playing video games, isolating myself from people and from my friends. So I got to a point where I was just done with it. And one day I was watching a documentary from a channel that's called Yes Theory. They basically have this documentary called Project Iceman. And in this documentary, this guy, I'm not going to spoil the documentary, but it's basically a documentary about a guy wanting to run an Ironman in Antarctica. So he starts his preparation by plunging into cold water. And then from that, I thought like, you know what, maybe I should also do that. And the idea was that I wanted to retain control of all those thoughts that would go into my head, and I wanted to prove myself wrong of all those limiting beliefs that I was telling myself. I wanted to show myself that I was worth it, that I was not unlovable, that all those negative thoughts that when you're in a depressive state you start to believe. And then I decided to start a challenge. The idea was to start from 1 minute up to 5 minutes and go every day for 7 days. And then from then on, I basically never stopped until day 56. And I just done cold plunge every day from January 5th until I think around end of February or beginning of March. And from this journey, then a lot of people, because I was documenting it and posting it on Instagram for accountability. I wanted to keep myself accountable for the challenge that I gave myself. I started just gathering a bit more of attention from my close network and people that know me. So a few people wanted to join me. Then my current business partners started joining me as well. And then, first we had 10 people, then 20 people, then 40 people. And then it just kept on growing. And we noticed how big of an impact it had on people. I noticed how big of an impact it had on me, and how big, change I felt just mentally. So we decided to create ChillsnSip and trying to create a supportive environment or community for people that wants to push themselves out of their comfort zone, that wants to grow as a person, and basically doing so through wellness activities, which at the beginning was ice bath, and now we're trying to promote more well-being and wellness activities like yoga, running, because at the end of the day all those activities
Really
have a benefit and have a good impact on mental health.
We're gonna talk more about like the whole traction and like what it is now, but like on day 3 at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, you had zero traction, maybe you had little to no views, and you were like in a depressive state where quitting is very close around the corner. Why did you not quit, or why, like, have you ever thought about quitting on day 3, day 4, day?
I've thought about quitting many times. I think it's something that comes every time. For whatever things you're gonna start in life, there's gonna be times where you're gonna think of, I'm just gonna quit. The reason why I was posting the video was not necessarily to gain traction and views. It was for me just the idea of like, I said I'm gonna post for 7 days, so now I can't just stop posting, because people, even if it's 10 people, they know that I'm gonna post. They know that I've started this thing, and I just said it to all the people that were close to me that I was gonna do it for 7 days, no matter what. And the main things was probably the act of actually doing the ice bath, because it made me feel so good. And every day was not a single day where you would get to the water and just do it. Every day was a constant fight with my brain, telling me like, what are you doing? It's 7 a.m. It's cold. There's snow. There's ice. The water is, you can't even get in. Like, I think on day 4 or something, it was the canal was completely frozen. I had to break the ice, and I was like, what am I doing? Or like waking up and like everything was covered in snow. So the reason to quit were always there, but every time that I would win that battle, I would feel so great afterwards that I felt too good to give up on it. I think that was the main motivation that made me not quit. It's just the idea that if I would say no, I would just go back to what was before. But if I was saying yes every day, I was feeling more proud of myself and feeling more strong as a person. The benefit of doing the challenge, it was too great for me to stop.
Yeah. Can you still remember the day that it got traction?
I got traction pretty late, I think. Uh, Consider started 5th of January. I think the probably after 14, 15 days, it was when I started having some views. And then March 24 was when we had the first video going viral. But at that point, I was already like, we didn't have a lot of views per se on Instagram, but we already had like 20 people coming to the event. So, or like coming to do the plunge with us. It wasn't really an event yet, but so I think around like in the first 14 days, I almost didn't get anything.
Yeah. What is really funny is like I lived very close by where you did the plunges, and I'm very, very sure that I've seen you guys taking a plunge and being like, wow, this is courageous. I was out with the dog in the morning and I thought like, okay, holy shit, and this is like really crazy.
Yeah,
it was a very big crowd. So
it was one of the nicest thing actually to do during the challenge at the beginning was that every time even if I was alone, I remember one morning there were like the people collecting the trash with the van. They stopped, they put down the windows, like just being super nice and like encouragement towards it, like, hey, you're doing great, well done, you're crazy, amazing that you're doing this, like. And that was not something that happened once or twice. Like almost every time, if someone would pass, they would just be very encouraging, like, hey, great, you're doing great. So that was very nice support by people that had no idea what I was doing. I probably thought they were crazy, but I was crazy, but still they encouraged me. That makes you feel pretty nice.
Yeah. I think now you had thousands of people joining your event. So it became really a big community, a big event. When was the moment that you kind of saw also like kind of a business opportunity in there, or more like maybe not even from the standpoint as a business yet, but when did you realize like, oh wow, this can become something? Like, was there ever a moment that you really realized it after maybe 10 people joining, 15 people joining, or was this more like a process that?
Yeah, so while we're doing the first few events with my actual current business partner, one of my business partner, we are like just talking. It's like, oh, do you imagine doing this with like 100 people? Or do you imagine doing this every week? And then one of our video went viral and we had 2 million views. And the response from that video was insane. I think I responded to probably 800 messages of people like, oh, how do I join? I want to join. I will join. So from that point, that was the point where I realized, yeah, there's interest in this. And it's never really been like a business in the sense like I want to turn this into a business. It was more like, this is giving me so much fulfillment and so much, I feel so much happiness from it that I want to do it full time. I want to, connect people, and I want to get them to feel the experience that I felt. But I think that the main tipping point was when our video went viral, and then we mostly got like good feedback or good comments. Like if you go on the video, there are a few people complaining about the water and the cleanness of the water, but otherwise everybody else was very excited to be part of it, or to try, or to like just experience it. So that was probably the main point.
I think there are so many people out right now that want, I think, like building a community and all those kind of, like, there's so many buzzwords right now. I think every brand said like, we have to build a community, not followers anymore. And you kind of did it maybe a little bit more naturally without even giving it so much thought of, oh, I want to build a community. What do you think you did right building a community, but maybe you did it unintentionally?
I think it's because at the beginning it was very much just about getting people together. There was no other reason. Like, we were doing the event just to connect people. And I believe that after all these years about like COVID and, just mental health and like isolation, remote work, people feel very disconnected. So I think the main reason that made work what I was doing is just the story, probably, or like people connecting with the reason why I was doing it, and just the fact that the event were all about connecting. The idea was, get in the ice bath or in the cold water, and then connect with the people afterwards with a coffee. So I think that was, what sparked the interest to everybody. It just seems like something exciting to do, and is, the main reason is just to connect with other people. So
anything that brands or other creators or other people you think can learn, is it then just like being genuine, having no commercial agenda? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I think at the beginning, the majority of people, the feedback that I got is just that they connected with the reason why I was doing it, with the initial reason why I was doing it. So if you want to build a community, I think that the main reason cannot be a commercial reason behind it. That cannot be it has to be something that it's a community. So it has to be something that is related to human connection. That has to be related to experiences of what people want, not necessarily, oh, we're all gonna go run because then I can sell you running shoes, or we can all go run so you can get a fitness tracker. Like if you do it like that, if there is a commercial intention behind it, like people even unconsciously they will realize, I think. So I think if I could give a suggestion, like if you want to start a community now, starting from your own point of view, like what is something that you want to do for yourself related to other people, and then start it without an idea of commercialization behind it. Just start it for the sake of doing it because you like.
Nice. I think that those are really, really good tips, I think, because I think there's a lot of people right now that really try to make this work. And what I find quite interesting, good transition. You also tried always to make it work your whole life, like kind of like, oh, I want to make it work. I want to, build this and build a company, build a, maybe not community back then, but like, it was really kind of this strong urge of being successful in a way. Now you are, I think this project is really successful. It's on a really healthy and good way. What changed? Do you think that it is the just like right time, right place after COVID community, or is it also for you personally that you changed and you are different?
Yeah, I think well, like any success, like I appreciate you saying that it's like success. I believe this is a success, but obviously we're just starting right now, so it's there's a lot more possibility to grow. But I think like any other big success stories, there is variables that make it work. But I think, like you said, the main reason was that before maybe like my focus was on making it work and not really how I can connect with people. And now probably just by being genuine and being myself, I connected a lot more with people, and then that kind of pushed the community growth. So yeah, I think the only way to really connect with someone is to being genuine. So being yourself, or otherwise, if you're trying to put on a mask, the mask at some point is gonna fall off, and it's gonna always be difficult to generally connect with someone. So I think for me, what really changed was the fact that I was not trying to do anything. I was just being myself. I was trying to go through a tough period of my life, and trying to get myself in a better place. And that's probably what connected a lot with the other people, and that what pushed a lot of people wanting to join and connect and try.
So cool that after such a hard period that this is the end product in the end. I think it's such a cool destination to be. And the funny thing is like a destination, but it's also like a new journey that basically starts.
I
Starts
mean,
from
I'm
there.
extremely happy and excited of how it turned out. It's something that just sometimes I say it just fell in my lap, because I was not trying to build a business. I was not trying
Yeah.
to build a community. I was not trying to do anything. I was just trying to get myself out of a very dark mental space.
Mm.
And as I said before already, like the fulfillment and the happiness that I gained from this, it's already 100 times more than all the success and the things that I've achieved before in my life. And just, seeing people meeting at my event, and then seeing them create a friendship and share stories and doing other activities outside of the community together, and sparking all this connection that turns into friendship. It's just beautiful, and makes me really, really, really happy of how it turned out. So like I said, now I don't want to stop. I want this to be my full-time things, and I want it to be my full-time things because I finally find something that is really making me feel fulfilled.
And what are the next steps now? And maybe in the same thing, what are the next steps? But what are also currently the biggest blockers for you? Because who knows? Maybe something opens up with this podcast.
But at the moment, it's like I said, we're very, very, very early age. I mean, we started officially in March, and it's just three of us. So at the moment, we're trying to expand our team and trying to bring a lot more experiences. Like I said, our goal now is to connect people through wellness in a way that it's always going to be connected through human connection first. We want to create a supporting environment and get people to stick to wellness and well-being habits in their life. So the main blockers at the moment is just trying to create new experiences and bring new experiences to people. And to do that, we need more people. We need to expand our team. And we're trying to do that, trying to keeping the community first. Obviously, for us to be able to do this as a full-time, it has to be a business. There has to be profit and revenue. But we don't want to lose that feeling of community, or we don't want people that are part of it to feel the feeling of community, to lose the feeling of community. So the blockage are really much just help from other people, so that we can create more experiences and provide more value to the people.
Maybe then have like more partners that kind of pay for the experience in exchange of getting exposure and those kind of things, that it remains as free as possible, of course, for the participants.
Exactly.
What I find interesting is that basically ice bath and like breath work and all those topics were a little bit like your safe space. Now you kind of invite other people in your safe space and share this experience, which is really nice. But how do you protect your mental health now, while it becomes a little bit like a job almost, So how do you balance that?
Yeah, like I said, for me, at the moment it doesn't feel yet like a job, and I still have my own little, rituals and things. Like I like to journal or to meditate or to, have my own private time. So it's hard for me to say at the moment, because it still doesn't feel like a job. I still enjoy every moment of it. I try to get into the ice bath when we do the event. And as I said, I think a lot of the mental health problem that I had before was connected to this feeling of being lost and not knowing what to do with my life, and not having a specific direction. So now that all those kind of things are in place, it's a lot easier for me to stay healthy, to keep those healthy routines, and just push, because it doesn't feel like job, it doesn't feel like work.
You have been also like on this like maybe transformative journey for yourself, from first looking at some drop shipping Instagram millionaires to now
Way too many.
having something now completely different. And I think it's a completely different approach, like almost back to the nature, back to cold exposure, back to breath work, back to the basics basically. What advice would you give now to kind of like starting entrepreneurs, people that maybe come from families with with financial problems, people that come from mental health problems? Like, what would you say to those people? Like, still make your experience, or
I think like, especially if you don't have a specific thing in mind of what you want to do, I would say just try a lot of things. Try and just get into it, get involved for a few months and see how it feels. I would say also focus on understanding yourself more, because I think the main points was, for me, was to understand a lot more about myself. So once I figured out that I had some sort of interest into mental health, it kind of directed me into in that way. I tried a few times to do things in the mental health with a business mindset, and it didn't work. Then I just tried to do something for mental health for my own thing, and it worked. So I think like understand about yourself. Like try to understand a lot more about yourself and who you are as a person. Try a lot of things. They say you need to be passionate about something to like really work, but I think that passion builds up. Like you need momentum. Like if you have momentum, everything you do feels nice, and even if you're not passionate about it. And I think like if you keep something that has momentum and you can really put the hours in, then passion will come out of it. So find something that you're interested in, put some hours in it, and if you can keep the momentum going, then passion will come, and then you can, like I said, now it doesn't really feel like work for me. It's not that I was passionate about building community or building, it was not a passion of mine, but now I'm passionate about it because I got the momentum, I put effort into it, and I'm just, now I have a passion for it because all the things that brought me to this place. So, just try a lot of things until you figure out something that you really like, and just go for it and don't give up.
Beautiful. Really nice words. Luigi, thank you so much for coming to the podcast. I think it was really, really, really an amazing conversation. I was already very happy before the podcast because we already had a chat. And I love those stories. I think this is like the prime example of why I started this podcast, is to bring those kind of stories that come just like those founder-led stories coming from a real problem, and then changing many times, trying many different things, and then ultimately making it work. Before we leave off, I always have 3 final questions to each guest. And the first one is, what are you learning right now that you're not good at?
Event planning.
Nice. So if there's any event planners out there, holler. What name would you give this chapter of your life?
Ooh.
The difficult questions.
Winter is not so bad.
Nice. Winter is not so bad. And if you could send a SMS to all mobile phones in the world, what would you say?
Smile more and tell people you love them.
Nice. Super beautiful. Luigi, thanks so much again
for
coming to the podcast. It was really a pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
Same, it was a very nice conversation. Thank you for having me.
And for all the listeners, we will, of course, add all the social accounts of Luigi, of ChillsnSip, of all the events that are upcoming into the show notes or into the YouTube description, so you can find it. Don't forget to follow him, follow his journey. I think it's going to be a very, very big community, so you better join it, maybe in the future in another city. And for all the people that are listening still right now, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And we are back in 2 weeks' time in the 301 podcast.